Now that we've looked at increasing, we're going to look at decreasing, which is, as you would imagine, the opposite. This is where I am deliberately removing stitches from my stitch count. We're going to look at two different types in this tutorial. There are many, but we'll cover two. One is a right-leaning decrease and the other is a left-leaning decrease. Again, why this is important will be covered in finishing school. So I knit 2 stitches in from the side. Unlike increase stitches, decrease stitches are generally worked over 2 or more stitches rather than anything in between the stitches. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do a knit 2 together, which is a right-leaning decrease. To work a knit 2 together, I take the tip of my right needle and insert it into the fronts, from front to back, of 2 of my next stitches. And I make sure that there's nothing else in there with the stitches in the same way I would if I was working just a single stitch. I then take my yarn as if I were doing a regular knit stitch and bring the tip of the needle back out through, creating 1 stitch from 2 stitches. So we'll see that again. I take the tip of my right needle and insert it into the front 2 legs of the 2 stitches that are next. I then wrap my yarn as if I were doing a regular knit stitch and make 1 stitch from 2 stitches. And what you will see here is that these stitches lean ever so slightly to the right, which is what I mean when I say it's a right-leaning decrease. You'll see why this is important when we start working jumpers and other garments with shaping. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work a slip-slip knit, which is a left-leaning decrease. Before we do the decrease stitch, we're just going to look at how you slip stitches from one needle to the other without working them. There are 2 different ways. You either insert your needle into the next stitch as if you're going to knit it and then slip that off, or you put your needle into the stitch purlwise and then slip it off. Both of these do different things to the stitch. When I insert knitwise, it twists the stitch. It takes the back leg of the stitch and brings it to the front. But when I slip a stitch purlwise, it does not change the direction of my stitch. We're covering this here only because you use a certain type of slip for a slip-slip knit, but it is definitely something to remember for future reference as well. So to work my slip-slip knit, I insert the tip of my right needle into the next stitch and slip it knitwise off my needle from my left to my right. I then slip the next stitch in the same way by inserting my needle knitwise and slipping that off from the left to the right needle. I then insert my left needle into the fronts of those stitches and then knit those 2 stitches together. That is a slip-slip knit decrease where you turn 2 stitches into 1. It is a left-leaning decrease. So you slip the first stitch, slip the second stitch, insert your left needle into the front 2 legs of the stitches and then knit those 2 stitches together. On the return row you purl those stitches as if you would purl any other stitch. So now we have a look and we have lost 4 stitches out of our stitch count. You can see our first 2 knit 2 together stitches lean ever so slightly to the right, and my next 2 stitches, which were my slip-slip knit, and they lean to the left. It's very subtle, but it makes a difference in garments and in shaping. And that's it. They are 2 of your basic decreases. There are a lot more decreases covered in finishing school, and we can move on there as soon as you're ready.